Lenny Henry calls for £18 trillion in reparations for slavery.
He's now written a book in which he says that British taxpayers should pay £19 trillion for slavery and reparations.
That amount of money doesn't even exist.
There was you thinking that Lenny Henry's comedy career was over.
The funniest thing he said since 1983.
It is actually, yeah.
And,
Sir Lenny Henry is one of the all-time greats of British comedy.
What's so special about yours? I said, are you a crazy guy? This isn't just any car, it's unique. The seats recline so far back I have to have my hair cut in Australia. Tires are so wide I can't drive in motorway lanes, I have to drive in shipping lanes.
So let's do all the jokes now before it gets boring. Yes, I do look like a black aircraft carrier, yes. I do look like Grace Jones. It's a real drag because people keep trying to drive Renault 5s into my mouth.
Yeah, well, if you thought that was good, that was 40 years ago. Tomorrow, no less, Lenny Henry is going to release the greatest piece of English language satire since Gulliver's Travels. The Big Payback. The Case for Reparations for Slavery and How They Would Work by Lenny Henry. Oh, and Marcus Ryder.
Right to us.
So, in Lenny Henry and Marcus Ryder's book, The Big Payback, an understatement if ever there were one, they make the claim that the UK government needs to pay out around 18 to 19 trillion pounds.
that's a sum equivalent, larger than China's entire GDP. That's what they want us to pay.
To be shared amongst every single black individual in the UK. Now, there are fewer than 3 million black identifying people in the UK, whatever that means. And so that works out at about 6 to 7 million pounds per person. Now, don't get me wrong, slavery, I'm no fan. I mean, if you said to me you can have slaves and they're free, I'd say, no, all right? Boo! Down with slavery, okay? I just think that giving every single black person 200 years after we became the first nation on earth to abolish slavery, giving every single person 8 generations later 6 to 7 million pounds may be a tad excessive.
Who's Daniel Boland? Oh, Daniel Boland, this is a heavy hitter. Do you guys know who this is?
No, I won't get into the details. I've just done 1.5 hour debate with Kahindi Andrews, the infamous race grifter, which is out now on YouTube if you want to see it.
Ah, yes, Professor Rafe, we will get to your debate with channel favourite Kahindi Cozy Andrews, who you rightly call a race grifter. Kind of ironic that he wouldn't have a pot to piss in if it weren't for slavery. But I do want to look at the two kinds of people who disagree with me. There are people like the race grifter Kahindi Cozy Andrews who know exactly what they're doing and have no other discernible talents other than to sort of rile people up and make much ado about nothing, essentially. And then there's well-intentioned buffoons like Lenny Henry. This poor sod doesn't know how stupid everything he says is. You know, I think he just wants to be kind and gentle to everyone. He doesn't... I really don't think he's a bad guy. In fact, there's a clip here from a few years ago where he had an interview with June Sarpong, or whatever her name is. And, and you'll see, I don't think he's a bad guy. He's just an idiot.
Ah, well done, you.
So we're talking about diversity.
Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
You've done lots in that area, haven't you?
Shall we talk about diversity? God give me strength. I will not be held responsible for my actions if anyone ever dares to unironically ask me, shall we talk about diversity? In a Brummie accent. No, we shan't.
So I'm going to ask first of all, so with you, in terms of diversity, the first part of your career, your work in the area of diversity was being there.
Yes.
Was being on screen, was being in the room, being visible.
Okay, so this is going to be a constant throughout the video, me being staggered by the idiocy on display. But what you'll see with June Sarpong and Lenny Henry here is they have no understanding of, well, you know, numbers or reality or anything, as far as I can tell. They're sitting there talking about how Lenny Henry was a pioneer, right? He broke down, he smashed the glass ceiling, right? You were a pioneer. You were just, in your role in diversity at the beginning, was just being there. How do you get to your late 40s like June Sarpong, or late 60s, God forbid, like Lenny Henry, and allow these thoughts to still be running through your head? Get them out! How does a sentence like that escape your stupid mouth? It's crazy. They understand nothing. As I said at the beginning of the video, 2.8 million people in the UK are black out of a 69 million population. So it's about 4% of the population. 1 in every 25 people you see in any place should be black, right? If that's on the TV, if that's working behind the scenes. But they don't get that. They really don't get that. They think there should be as many or more black people than white people in the entertainment industry. And they genuinely don't understand it. And back in Lenny Henry's day, when he was getting started, the late 70s, early 80s, it was an even lesser percentage of the population. Of course, there were few black people on TV. There were few black people, full stop, in the UK.
And then at this part of your career, you've become a real campaigner. And you have really made this your mission in having conversations that not everybody wants to discuss. So why did you decide to do it?
Sir Lenny is deep in thought. You might think that would be sort of a point of reckoning. You know, why are you doing all this diversity stuff? He might go to himself, shit, what am I doing? But nay, he goes on to talk about how he got white people fired early on in his career. And he thinks it's a good thing.
I didn't have a meeting with anybody that looked like me.
In the whole of your career?
For pretty much nearly all of my career as a comedian.
Wow.
So for 30-something years, I would walk into a room and there'd very few women, but there'd be rarely anybody that looked like me in the room, ever.
Well, there were clearly no mirrors in those boardrooms, eh, Lenny? Because you were there, and that was all the diversity we needed.
And, you know when they do a company shot at the end of a shoot?
Yeah.
So I would do these films like Coast to Coast or Alive and Kicking or Delbert or Bernard and the Genie or Lenny Henry Tonight or whatever. We'd do a company shoot, and it was always the same picture. There'd be me, and if there were black people in the cast because the story demanded it,
yeah,
there'd be the people in the cast at the front. But then the people that made the show and made the decisions about what was in the show were always the same kind of people.
Yeah, so even in his heyday, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there were black people in the cast. They just weren't, I don't know, funding these projects that he was working on. Look, I'm sorry that black people in the UK, who in those decades made up about 1% of the total population, didn't have the kind of cash or cultural interest to be setting up theatre companies, you know? They weren't TV producers. They weren't putting on Live and Kicking. They weren't running the BBC and ITV. They were 1% of the population, and yes, they were a poor percentage of the population. You know, there were people who'd come across from the Caribbean in the 50s and 60s. Okay. How many people do you think from Parson Cross, where I grew up in the 90s, went on to become theatre producers, ballet dancers? Not many, I can tell you. All right? Get over it.
Now, I've got no beef with that because for many years, that was the status quo. But after a while, particularly after my experience as a producer with Crucial Films, and where I used to say in meetings, it'd be good if this was a kind of a multi-ethnic production or something. Could it be more ethnically diverse, this show? Be nice to see are there any black sound men, I'd say, in meetings. When I was doing Chef, are there any black cinematographers? Can we... And holy crap, you'd walk onto the set and Remy Adefarasan's there. Or Keith's there, or whatever. And you kind of go, oh, you're really good at your job. Why haven't I seen you before? And they go, well, you asked for it to be an ethnically diverse set, and they had to find somebody.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious, Lenny. That you would walk into a production meeting for some shitty panto in Skegness or something, and you'd waltz in there like the star with your bottle of water, and you'd say, couldn't this be a little bit more ethnically diverse? And then the next day you'd come onto the set, and you'd go, where's Phil? And he's like, we got rid of him. Didn't you say you wanted a more ethnically diverse workplace, Sir Lenny? He thinks that's like, he'd just be like, satisfied, smug that he got some guy they had in place on merit, just got sacked because the star of the show, Skegness's main attraction, just sort of said, I don't want so many white people around here, please. That is not the win that you think it is, Lenny, for equality.
So I think that I keep saying it comes from the top. It comes from the people who are deciding. And if the people, Pat Young calls them, the pickers and deciders, if the pickers and deciders are always of the dominant culture, it's going to be very difficult to effect change. Because unless you've got a seat at the table, you can't have decisions like that imposed upon a production.
Yeah.
And one of the problems with Ofcom's decision not to regulate the BBC or the independent sector, not to regulate who's behind the scenes, is that we're never going to know who's making these shows. We're going to always show up at things and go, oh, okay, it's the same. Unless we are duty-bound to write down the ethnicity and the gender makeup and the sexuality
and class,
and the class of where we're from and everything.
Disability, all of
and just because this election proved that without data we're nothing.
Okay, so on the one hand there you have the feckless progressives like Lenny Henry and June Sarpong, God bless them, who believe that in order for us to truly tap into and unleash our artistic and creative potential fully, what we really need is an army of bureaucrats breathing down our neck, ensuring that we jot down the skin tone and sexual preferences of every single person who works on a production crew. There's no reasoning with them explaining to them that black people make up 4.2% of the British population, yet they make up 8.2% of the people seen on screen, and now also, by the way, make up 3.5% of the off-screen contributions to these productions. I mean, if they've reached the age they have, and they're still walking into a room with 8 white people, 5 Asian people and 4 black people and going, 2 white, you know, it's like, there's just no, I mean, you've just got to laugh. I mean, they don't understand it. I really believe in the case of June Sarpong and Lenny Henry, they don't get it, you know, bless them. It's, there's nothing to be done there. It's you're fighting a losing battle, okay? We just need to leave them out of the conversation. However, there are people like our friend Kahindi Cozy Andrews. That's a whole different kettle of fish.
My family's from Jamaica, so I have direct heritage here. The harm has never actually been addressed.
The problem is there are no victims of British Empire slavery today. You can't have intergenerational trauma for 8 generations. It's simply absurd.
Oh, absurd, is it? Tell me you haven't hung around many black people without telling me. Because if you had, you'd know how they wake up in the middle of the night, screaming, tossing and turning. No, master, no! Like that. Right? Epigenetics is stronger than you think. You know, I'm of Irish stock. I can't tell you the amount of times people have found me slumped in doorways, stinking of alcohol, and I have absolutely no memory of it.
Every single thing that powered the Industrial Revolution was slave labour.
The contribution of, say, of slavery to the British economy was less than 5%.
It's the distortions of white historians that just can't accept.
That's racist. Now that's racist.
No, it's not racist. That's true. The psychosis of whiteness. There's this rosy-eyed view of the world where you can ignore what's happened historically, ignore the implications which are very clear today. When Europeans came in 40, they weren't massively more technologically advanced.
Oh, yeah. No, the Europeans weren't more technologically advanced when they reached sub-Saharan Africa. Right, yeah, no. Look, this is such a chip on the shoulder load of shit. You just know that someone's talking shit when they don't know how to accept facts, all right? This isn't my battle to fight, okay? I didn't build shit. But in Europe, thousands of years ago, we had the Greek, the Roman empires. You have the Byzantines in the Middle East, and you have the Moors in northern Africa, and the Egyptians, and the Babylonians and Mesopotamians, and the Chinese, who all built these incredible structures that survive today. All over Spain, where I live, there's thousands of year old aqueducts and bridges that still work. The aqueduct in Segovia was still providing water to Segovia up until the 70s, I believe. It's 2,000 years old. When in the 17th, 18th, 19th even century, we started to go into Africa, the deepest, darkest sub-Saharan Africa, there weren't many wheels or two-story buildings to speak of. They have to make up shit about the walls of Benin and crap like that, which were just some mounds of earth. Sorry. But you've got to get that chip off your shoulder. Why is there nothing there? Like, it's not our fault. It's not a fight we should be fighting today. We should all be able to accept facts. The Great Wall of China's there. Go to Thailand, there's these palaces plated in gold and rubies. Where are those in Cameroon? Sorry. You've just got to accept those are just facts. Stop crying about it.
It's eugenics. It's just eugenics dressed up in something else. Cultural racism. Can you explain why the poorest part of the world is black and the richest part of the world is white?
No.
Thanks for the invitation. I mean, I think the key thing with this, when we think about reparations of slavery, is we have the frame that we're using is just wrong. And there's so many, because it's wrong, we just get the debate wrong. So if you actually think about reparations for slavery correctly, there really is no argument against, no good argument, all right? The way I'd put it is I'd use my favorite, Malcolm X, who says, if you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, we haven't made any progress. Even if you pull it all the way out, we still haven't made any progress. You actually have to heal the wound. Now, what we think of as slavery as something that was long ago, a distant harm that happened and ended, that is clearly nonsensical. If slavery is the knife going into our backs, and then abolition is probably pulling it at 3 inches.
How apt that he would use an analogy about knife crime. Okay, I guess we need to pull the knife out all the way and then heal the wound, okay? All of us white people who all owned slaves, all of our ancestors, of course. Because you're going back 200 years when the population of Britain was a few million. So we're talking about a tiny percentage of those people who owned anything at all, because most people were living in abject poverty. Most of my relatives were dying in the potato famine. It's such a pernicious, evil thing to do, race grift. There's enough trouble. There are enough things going on in the world not to make a career out of riling up idiots, Something you've got to be very careful of, I think, when you're on the internet. I'm riling you idiots up right now as we speak, aren't I? Bloody fools, you're going to go out and do something stupid. Don't. All right? I know this is becoming a bit of a cult of personality, this channel, but not on my watch, okay? Just chill out. There'll be no reparations. I don't owe anyone shit. Get fucked. That's all I've got to say. And Kayende Andrews, he knows what he's doing. He ain't Lenny Henry or June Sarpong. They ain't got a clue. They literally see one black person, 5 white people, and they think, oh no, something must be done. Something has to be done by being there. Kayende Andrews studied to do what he's doing now. He did black studies at Birmingham University. And yeah, it's evil what these people are doing. You rile up people like Lenny Henry who start to think that the government owes them 18 trillion pounds. Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, it really is. But this is the problem, I think, with everyone except me. Really, everyone who doesn't think like me. The false dichotomy I gave you at the beginning was in fact a factual dichotomy. I'm not joking. People who disagree with me are either wrong, they're just stupid, or they're manipulative psychos like Kayende here, you know? Or a mixture of the two. You know, they're not mutually exclusive. But those are your options if you don't agree with Daniel Boland and the Daniel Boland Show's message. All right, look, if you've had a good time, if you've enjoyed any of this rant, and I'm finding it difficult to make videos here in hotel rooms and stuff, I'll be back home next week. If you've enjoyed any part of this video, give it a like, though. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and follow me on X and on Instagram to know when I bring out a new video. Join my Patreon if you want to help out with the channel even further and see some exclusive videos that I'll put up on there. And nothing else. I'll leave you with the outro. I'll see you in the next one.
And today we want to offer to you the most beautiful gift we've ever offered to our Sparrows Club members. Look at this beautiful Sparrows clock. 2 sparrows standing over a nest singing. And in this beautifully sculptured base, we've inserted a clock. And not just any clock, an alarm clock. This alarm clock could wake you in the morning, not with that annoying, harsh electronic sound you're so used to hearing, but with a clock that will sing of joy, and then the chirping of a sparrow. Listen.